There we go. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Underground. As you know, my name is Vinny. We got Chris back again. And I got to tell you, Chris, I got a lot of calls on our last podcast regarding LLCs. So I know that you said you've done some homework on it, which is great because not only am I interested in it, our students had a lot of interest in it too. I got calls from a lot of them. Now, some of these questions, we might be repeating ourselves from the last podcast, but I think we can maybe take a little deeper dive into what we talked about. How's that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and the LLC stuff, I know pretty much backward and forward. I also use the trusts all the time, and that's really what I took the weekend to really study all the details because I kind of only do it one way, but okay. Now I should be more familiar. So I will do my best to answer all the questions.
Okay, awesome. All right. I have a list here of all the questions. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, fantastic. Okay. Here's my, okay, so here's, which one do you want to do first? LLCs or trusts?
Let's warm up with LLCs because those I should know.
Okay, we'll go with the LLCs. Let me put the trusts to the side and then we're going to go LLCs, all right? And this is good. I think this is the right way to start. All right, here we go. And for those who don't know, Chris is a doctor turned real estate investor who owns quite a bit of property. He does short-term rentals, right? But not the Airbnb stuff. You rent them out on a daily basis, yes? Weekly basis?
Yeah, we call them midterm rentals. I know you call them short-term rentals because they're less than a year.
Yeah.
Generally 3 to 6 months.
Okay. And then you also own regular long-term rentals that you buy, and then you sell them under an installment sale, correct?
Right, exactly.
Okay, perfect. We're going to get into that again, too, because that's one of my favorite topics.
Right.
All right, Here we go. Now, these are questions that came from my students. Okay, what exactly is an LLC, and why would I have to put my investment property into one? Okay.
So an LLC is just an entity designed for one purpose, and that is to separate your personal liability from your business's liability. So you take your LLC, you put it in a protective box, and then anything wrong that happens in the LLC stays in the LLC. Like they can't sue you personally just because someone tripped and fell. And likewise, if you do something wrong and you get sued, they can't take your properties because they're inside this protective box.
Okay. So basically, it's an extra insurance policy. So
you can think of it as like a catastrophic. If everything goes catastrophically wrong,
okay,
it's like a bomb. If you have a bomb, would you rather be holding it or would you rather it be inside a steel box?
Right.
That's kind of what it is.
Okay. So now this is my follow-up question. This is from me. Okay, not from my students here.
Sure. Yeah.
So my follow-up would be, if it's just for protection, would insurance do the same thing as an LLC, or are they two separate entities?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I would say insurance is a completely different other layer of protection. So for example, if let's just say something happens and you get sued and you lose a judgment for like $20,000.
Okay.
And it would be very easy, and they get hurt or something like that. It would be very easy for them to just take the insurance.
Okay.
Because if it's relatively minor, it's not like they're going to sue you for $1 million or be able to get a judgment for $1 million. So insurance is good for that. So I definitely have both. I have insurance and I have LLCs.
Okay. All right. Well, this was one of the questions. Does an LLC actually protect me if someone gets hurt on my property or sues me?
Yes. And it's the best protection that there is for something catastrophic happening. Now, that doesn't mean it protects you 100% of the time. The key thing is you have to follow the rules of the LLC. Like, for example, an LLC rules are actually much easier than corporation rules. Okay. So you just have to not do things you're not supposed to, such as commingling your funds. You're not supposed to put your personal funds in the LLC funds and mix them together and take revenue and use it for your personal stuff and go. So there's a couple of things that you're not supposed to do. Okay. But as long as you just follow these very simple rules, then a judge is supposed to honor the LLC, and 9 times out of 10 they do. But the term they'll use is they'll pierce the veil. The other lawyer will try to find a reason to convince the judge to pierce your veil. and treat your LLC as if it was you personally. But as long as you do everything correctly, and again, the rules for an LLC are much less strict than that of a corporation.
Okay.
So that's another good reason to have an LLC rather than a corporation in many cases. But yeah, so bottom line is it should protect you 95% of the time.
Okay. One of the questions is, what is the difference between the revocable and irrevocable? That's the trust. I'm sorry. That got mixed in here.
Problem.
That got mixed in with that one.
Okay, sure. Yeah, we'll talk about that.
Let me cross out that one. Sorry about that.
No problem at all.
Should I put my primary residence in an LLC?
You can't, is the short answer. You are not allowed to put any personal property or real estate, personal real property, anything that is not business. Only business things.
Only business.
Yeah.
Yep. Only business. Okay.
Yeah. It's just not allowed.
Gotcha. Okay. I know we touched on this one, but let's go over this one again. Should every investment property have its own LLC?
I definitely think so. And that's because, again, imagine it as being like very cheap catastrophic insurance. It's kind of like, think of it like an umbrella policy, kind of like where your insurance costs, like let's just say $2,000 a year. And then you can add an umbrella policy for like $200 a year. And it just gives you extra protection. Okay. LLCs only cost like $200 a year after the initial investment. So it doesn't cost that much. It's really not any trouble. And we could talk about like ways of managing it, but I have many LLCs and they don't cause me any trouble at all. Okay. And they're very inexpensive. So yes, I think every property should go into an LLC.
Okay. Very good. All right. Here's a good question. This one came from Joey. Should I buy the property in the LLC's name from the beginning or buy it personally and transfer it later? What's the difference and what problems can arise if and when I transfer an existing property?
Okay, that's several good questions in there. Yep. Generally, you're going to have less control over that than you think, because for a government-backed mortgage, you're not going to be allowed to put it into an LLC. Like you can't put your VA loan into property into an LLC, for example. And likewise, if you're getting a DSCR loan, they generally are not going to let you put it in your personal name. You have to put it in an LLC. So generally, you're going to have less control over that than you think. The real question is, what are you going to do after it goes in there? And you have a lot more freedom than you used to. The Garn-St. Germain Act allows you to put your property into a trust after you close on it, and it's protected from the due on sale clause. And also, and you had mentioned last time that recent Fannie Freddie guidelines said that you could put it into an investment property into an LLC as well. So you're pretty free to do what you want as long as you kind of follow a few simple rules. Yep.
Okay. All right. So that kind of brought up to the next one is, can I transfer if I have this is a good question. This also came from Joey. If I have a lien on my property, if I have a loan, if it's mortgaged, right? Can I transfer that into an LLC? Will that trigger the due on sale clause?
Yeah, and I think you know a little bit more about this than I do. I just buy them into the LLC to start with because mine are DSCR loans. But I think what you mentioned was that there were recent Fannie Freddie guidelines that guarantee or set the rule that you're allowed to put into an LLC and they can't.
They are, as long as you still remain the owner of the property.
Right. As long as you're the beneficial owner, as long as it's not a sale.
Right.
And as long as occupancy doesn't substantially change.
So basically what they're trying to do is a lot of the gurus, what they like to do is they try to get around the due on sale clause. So they try every little trick in the book. And Fannie came out because they didn't want to trigger the due on sale clause for people that were using it for business reasons like yourself. So what they did is they came out with a guideline saying, hey, we're not going to call your loan as long as you follow these guidelines, right? But they were having big issues with it was more on the trust because a lot of the people were trying to do subject to financing, and they were getting the note calls, and then the gurus were saying, oh, let's just put it into a trust and that won't trigger the due on sale clause. But that's not true either. It will trigger the due on sale clause. Any sale is going to trigger the due on sale, right? So
if money changes hands, it could trigger that.
Yeah. Well, we'll trigger it. Whether they call it or not.
Trigger it if they notice. That's
trigger if they notice. If they actually, let me say properly, whether they call it is a different story. If they find out, they will call it. But if they find
it's no longer protected from being called.
right. Thank you. That's a much better way of saying it. Thank you. That's a way better way of saying it. That's correct. You are no
Whether
longer
they
protected.
call it is another whole. That's actually even a more interesting topic, and we could definitely talk about that sometime.
Which one's that?
Whether they're willing to call it.
Oh, okay. Maybe we could get to that at the end of this, right?
Sure, yeah, because I know you have some strong opinions about that, and I've got some other opinions about that. So
I fight with one of my friends over this all the time. All the time. If we have time, we're going to get to it at the end of this.
Yeah, and I'd be happy to. Not that I 100% disagree with you, but I'd be happy to take the other side.
Yes. Well, that's what I'd like to have, because I'd like to have different sides of it. Because look, I'm not always right when it comes to real estate. You know what I mean? I like to think I know a lot. I've been through a lot, right?
You've been a long time.
Yeah, but I like to hear other people's opinions and other people's thoughts, right? Okay, so we talked about, can we transfer a mortgage? We talked to, to get a mortgage. This was a question. It's not a very good question, but we'll answer it. Okay. Is it harder to get a loan when an LLC owns the property? Meaning that.
I think that's a good question. I mean, so if you are you talking about if it's to refinance, obviously?
No. The actual question was if a seller is selling a property, but it's not owned by a person, it's owned by an LLC. Is it?
That's fine. They just transferred over.
Exactly.
Great question.
Yep.
Yeah, that's not a bad question.
Yeah.
Because that happens all the time.
Yeah.
So the title company will just deed it from their LLC to either you personally or
your LLC. Correct. Yep. Okay.
Generally not a good idea to buy it into a trust. And I know that from experience. There's not really, because you can transfer it to a trust afterwards. I'm not going to say there's no reason to not do that. Like if you really want hardcore anonymity, maybe, but that increases the complexity a lot. And then it makes refinancing difficult.
Why? Why?
Why for which one?
Why does it increase the complexity?
Well, okay. So because if you want to refinance after that, you got to move it. Generally, they're going to require that you move it into an LLC or to your own personal name and then back into the trust. So that adds time. You can still do it, but it just adds a little bit of time and cost.
Right.
And then the other issue is if you need to pull any permits or anything, I can tell you that from experience, that confuses local counties that don't understand how trusts work. So It's generally easier and cleaner to buy it into an LLC.
Okay. Right. Okay. And just for those out there, like Chris said earlier, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, they don't lend to LLCs or trusts. So if you do own an LLC and you're going to try and get the lowest rate possible, and just so you know, there's not much difference between a DSCR loan and a conventional loan. You'll get a better LTV, Fannie, Freddie, you'll get better rates. But a DCR loan is much easier.
And it's only slightly better. And to be honest, I mean, sometimes it's not even better. That's kind of like I'm getting better rates in DSCR than I've been quoted for, conventional.
Well,
refinance.
You got a bad broker.
My DSCR refinances have been better. What was that?
You have a bad broker or banker that's quoting your rates, because I've never seen DSCR rates better than Fannie or Freddie.
Yeah, I got a really interesting loan. Just to go off topic slightly.
Yeah,
I really like the loan, and maybe this is why it was a little bit higher.
Oh, I like the loan too. I'm a fan of it. Don't get me wrong. I am a fan of a DSCR loan. I'm a big fan.
And actually, what I was about to say is I recently got a loan. We don't have to talk about this for long or at all. We can talk about it another time.
Yeah, well, let's hear it real quick. Sure.
I think people would find this interesting because I think this is a relatively new product. So I'd never heard of it before.
Okay.
And then when I got it, I had several friends that said, oh yeah, I started getting that too. But it's a 40-year loan. And the first 10 years is interest only. And then the second 30 years is amortized normally.
Okay. Well,
I like it and the reason I like those
cash
kind of
flow.
loans.
Tons of cash flow.
It's cash flow. And in 10 years, or you can bet, I mean, unless something catastrophic happens, in 10 years, you're going to have higher rents.
Absolutely.
So you'll be able to more easily afford that. So I'm basically paying a little bit to have that delay.
Well, I would, as a real estate investor, we'll talk about this for a minute. I have zero problems. I would actually recommend you take a 40-year loan with the interest, with an interest-only loan. You're going to have way better cash flow because your interest-only payments are going to be lower. If you looked at a 30-year fixed rate, okay, for those out there who like crunching numbers. If you had a 30-year fixed rate, doesn't matter the interest rate. I don't care if it's 3% or if it's 10%. And you paid that for 27 straight years. 27 straight years. Okay. On the first of the month, never missed a payment. You were never a day late. You paid it for 27 years. I don't care if it's 100,000 or $1 million. What's the percentage that you still think you have left with only 7 years left?
Of interest or principal?
Principal. What's like the
probably? I'm sure you know the exact number, but I'm sure it's much higher than most people would think.
You'd be shocked. So you paid it 23 straight years.
Yeah.
What percentage do you think?
23.
What's that?
27 or 23?
Yeah, I'm sorry, 23 straight years, 7 years left.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Let's say I'll guess 50%.
Very close, 47%.
Yeah, okay.
47%. Yeah. Just imagine that. You owe almost half of your loan on a regular 30-year fixed amortized loan. You owe 47% still with only 7 years to go. And if you ever look at an amortization schedule, and the reason why they do this, just so people know, the national average that people, well, this could have changed over the last couple of years, but in the past, I haven't checked on it lately, so don't crucify me here. Mm-hmm. In the past, the national average of people staying in their houses was 7 years.
7 years. I was about to say that.
7 years.
So yeah, they're protecting themselves.
They're totally protecting themselves. The banks are ruthless, right?
And I would say that's good as an investor. You want the banks to feel safe with you.
Yeah, of course you do.
They do amortization.
Yep.
Definitely with like residential loans and smaller loans, and they do it differently later. Like bigger loans or commercial loans. But that's good. I want my lender to feel safe.
Of course.
Running.
Of course.
So I'm happy to pay most of the interest up front.
Listen. I would take it as an investor. I would take a 40-year loan interest only over any other loan out there, period, full stop. Because as an investor, you're writing off the interest anyway, right? Mm-hmm. And you are trying to, your goal is cash flow. Well, most of the time your goal is cash flow. It depends. You could be buying houses for equity, but the majority of the time you're buying for cash flow.
It's a vital part of the process for sure.
Yeah. Like I like you did mention it. I like how you said it. One time you said it. Should I have gold in one hand or gold in the other? Like equity or cash flows, right? It's you're exactly right. I loved how you said that. Now, so having a 40-year with that interest only is a great loan. I didn't know they still had them out there, right? I'll tell you quick. Off top. This is totally off topic. My mother-in-law, 94 years old, just passed away.
Sorry.
When her husband passed away, my father-in-law, when he passed away, she moved in with my sister-in-law. That didn't work out. So they wanted her to go a little bit closer. Now there's 8 of them, 8 brothers and sisters. So she had 8 kids. So the goal was, hey, let's buy mom a house, right? And we'll all chip in and pay the mortgage. So they came to me and my wife, who were in the mortgage business at the time, and say, look, you got to get us the lowest payment possible, right? With the least amount of money down so we could buy mom a house. We're all going to chip in and, depending on so we're like, hey, we go right around the corner to Hershey's Mill. It's 55 and older. It's great. And you got 3 people that live right nearby, right? So it's great. What loan did we take? We took an adjustable rate mortgage, but it was based on cost of funds index. Mm-hmm. For those that don't know anything about an ARM, we could do a whole thing on this because some ARMs are better than a better. This is a great ARM. Okay. I put my sister in the same ARM. She paid her house off, never refinanced one single time. And I'll get into what this ARM's all about. Anyway, we did a 40-year ARM. We started her out at 1%, right? Now she just passed away, and one of the brothers is upset that we took this 40-year loan. And I was like, hey, Dan, the reason why we did it, if everybody wants to go back 20 some odd years ago, we did it because we were trying to save as much money down and we're trying to get the lowest payment possible. You weren't going to get lower than 1%. So we had 40-year loans back in the day when I was a mortgage broker. I didn't know they were still out there. So I'm glad to hear they're back. Can you name the bank that did it? Do you want to or no?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, no, it's fine. Yeah, it was Movement Mortgage.
Movement Mortgage. So
it's in Virginia. I don't know. Maybe they have other locations, but
are they a broker or are they a bank? That sounds like a broker.
It's a broker. Yeah, it was a broker. I might have said bank. I meant broker.
Yeah. Do you know who the loan got sold to? Like who the actual underwriter was?
No, I'm not sure. But if you're in Virginia, look up Katie Brinson. She's great. She helps me with all my Virginia stuff.
Okay.
Little
I was
tip
just
there.
wondering who the actual bank was, like, behind the scenes. Because brokers, we deal with a bunch of different banks.
Yeah, I'll try to look that up and let you know later.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. So I'm all for that. Right. Okay. If I put my property into an LLC, will the lender still require my personal guarantee?
Yes. Yeah. So personal guarantee, Vinny knows, of course, but for the viewers, in case you don't know that, is you guarantee it through the LLC, and then you also personally guarantee it.
Yep.
In case you dissolve the LLC or whatever, you're still liable. And just to make this clear, the only time you're going to have a non-recourse loan, because there's a lot of non-recourse means you're not personally liable.
Right.
And there's a lot of confusion about this online. The only time really you're going to get a non-recourse loan is if you're in like a syndication or there's a bunch of investors, and
it's very
generally
rare,
that
by the
going to
way.
be over $1 million.
Yeah.
So it's like,
let them know how
bigger the
rare
loan and the
a
bigger the
non-recourse
group.
loan is.
A non-recourse loan again means like they can't go after you. They
Right.
can only go after the LLC.
Right.
And
Let
the
them know
only
how
reason-
rare that is.
What was that?
Let them know how rare that is to get that type of loan.
It's practically non-existent.
Right.
If you're the only investor, and especially if it's under like $1 million.
Yep.
It's close to 0%.
Right.
So the only so why would they do that? They would only do that really if it's a large loan, like over $1 million at least. And there's two factors, I think. If it's over $1 million, because they really want that, they'd rather do $1 million loan than a $100,000 loan.
Of course.
You have more leverage if you're doing that.
Yep.
And then also, if there's multiple investors, it's more difficult to, make every single investor, personally responsible for the loan, especially if there's limited partners. So
Right.
bottom line is, if you're a solo investor like I am, then it's always going to be a recourse loan, and that's fine. Let me just say one more thing. That's good for the same reason I like amortization, because it makes the lender feel comfortable. I like the personal responsibility because it makes the lender feel comfortable. I want the lender to feel comfortable because A, they're more likely to want to do business with me, and B, they have and you could talk more about this, Vinny, but there's like 5 or 6 different variables they can use to make themselves feel more comfortable. Lower loan to value, higher rate, requiring, there's other things too. You could probably tell more about that.
Yep.
But if they don't feel comfortable in one way, they're just going to make the other things go up.
Yep.
So now I'm going to pay my mortgages. So basically for me, being personally liable, personally responsible for the note, makes it so I get a free decrease in the other things
Correct.
that they use. Like I'm like, yeah, please. I want to be personally liable for the loan, because then I can maybe get a lower rate, or I can get, a higher LTV or something like that.
Right. Just think of lending like a table, right? You got 4 legs on it. You pull away one leg, right? Those 3 other legs better very strong. You got to rearrange them, and they better be pretty strong. You pull 2 legs away, and the table will be standing up, but it's going to be wobbly. You pull another leg, you're getting very wobbly, right? It's how I like to do it. To take one more step on what we were just talking about the personal guarantee, I think what they wanted to know was what I think they were thinking. The question was this: if I put it into an LLC, am I personally responsible, or is the LLC responsible? Right. They were trying to figure out, is there a way to get out of my personal responsibility if I transfer to an LLC?
The simple answer is no, and you don't want that.
Right.
So LLC separates your liability if somebody gets hurt and you get sued, but that's not the case for the fact that it's a recourse loan.
Right.
Again, I want you to change your mind frame, viewers at home. Like, you like recourse loans because you want to pay your bills.
Yep.
If you don't pay your bills, you're not going to be an investor very long. So you like paying your bills, and it being a recourse loan just means you have to pay your bills. Great. I wanted to do that anyway. Right. So now I get some free trust with the lender. So I like recourse loans. So no, you can't get out of it, and no, you don't want to get out of it.
Right. I don't know how people would even think that they can personally get out of the guarantee. You know what I mean?
They just hear about it online.
Yeah.
Oh, and you can get a no recourse loan as if that's good.
I could tell you my 40 years. I can't even let you, who gets non-recourse loans? The big giant commercial investors, right?
Yeah.
Now I'll just throw, and it's not political at all, because it just came to mind. I'm just going to, like a guy like Donald Trump, built like we could say him, or we could say Joe Schmo out in New York who builds big skyscrapers, right? They're going to give those guys a non-recourse loan because they don't care if it's him. They care about the building, right? They're who's like your name. They don't care. Donald Trump or Joe Schmo, doesn't matter to them. They're investing in that building, and they, you personally, if you don't pay, we don't care about you. We want the building. You know what I mean? So that's when you get the no recourse loans, the much higher you go. But I don't care if you're borrowing $3 million, you're going to be personally liable for that loan. I've never seen a non-recourse loan. I mean, a commercial loan, it's ultra rare, but even with commercial loans, I've not really seen non-recourse loans out there.
And generally, one investor is not going to be taking down a $3 million building.
Right.
Like usually people are not going to be paying a $900,000 down payment.
Right.
Because by the time you get to that point, you have investors.
Exactly.
Like 95% of the time.
Right.
And the thing is, when there's multiple investors,
right,
it's harder to make it a recourse loan.
Right.
It's not like you want to sue every single one of those investors.
Exactly.
And also they want the big loan because they're making
more money. Right. So
exactly.
Most of that money's coming from a REIT anyway. I thought this one was a good question. I like this one. Does creating an LLC automatically change how I pay my federal taxes, and is my rental income taxed differently from an LLC?
Okay, the simple answer is no and no. It doesn't basically change anything. So just go into a little bit more detail. You should like the LLC that holds the property should be a disregarded LLC. That means that it's literally just liability protection and it's ignored for tax purposes.
Okay, hold on. I need to stop you. Hold on. Mm-hmm. Hold on. When I hear something that I don't know, I need explanation.
Sure, yeah.
Now, I know if I don't know it, my students most likely are not going to know it. When you say disregarded LLC, explain a disregarded LLC.
Okay, so very briefly, originally all there was a corporation, and later it became known as a C corporation. So what we think of as a C corporation was the very first legal entity. And then later, I don't know what happened first, either an S corporation or an LLC. They both happened like around the 80s. Mm-hmm. Don't quote me on that, but it was like, 40 years ago or 50 years ago.
Yep.
So a C corporation is just a basic corporation. That's what we've had forever. An S corporation is like halfway between a C corp and a sole proprietor, where it's primarily for solopreneurs, people who have their own business and they make a decent amount of active income. S corp helps them decrease their taxes. Okay. So those are corporations. Now, then they invented the LLC. So an LLC is literally just liability protection. It doesn't necessarily affect your taxes at all.
Okay.
And then they made it so that so a basic LLC is disregarded by default. Just like a corporation is a C corp by default, and you have to elect to be an S corp.
So it's basically just called a disregarded LLC.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So let me just say this last part because it's important. Yeah. So for an LLC, the default is you're a disregarded LLC, which means it's just liability protection. The IRS literally ignores it.
Okay.
And now, if you want to, you can elect to be taxed in your LLC as an S corp or a C corp. Yep. And there's different reasons for doing that. Okay. But the bottom line is, unless you actively make those elections, the IRS will ignore the fact that you have an LLC.
Okay.
So when you get a property, again, not a lawyer, don't take anything I say as advice.
Right.
Check everything. But so when you put a property into an LLC, you want it to be a disregarded LLC. And so the IRS just completely ignores it for tax purposes.
Okay. So then
it goes down to your personal return is what I mean by that.
Okay. So then you're just basically putting it just on a regular Schedule E then?
Yes.
Okay. So gotcha.
Yep. The IRS ignores it, but it still has that liability protection.
Okay. Well, this was the follow-up question to that. And I can't remember who asked me this. I think this was Dustin. Can I still take depreciation and deduct expenses if my LLC owns the property? What happens with the mortgage, interest, the repairs, the insurance, the taxes, the depreciation, and depreciation?
Yep, it's all exactly the same.
So it's all the same. Okay,
it's all the same. Doesn't change anything.
Nothing changes, right?
Yeah. So again, I want to say this just to say this one more time.
Yeah.
Generally, you don't want to hold a property, especially for buy and hold. You don't want to put it into a C Corp, S Corp, or an LLC taxed as a C Corp or S Corp. And that's a complex conversation, but generally, you only want to put it into a disregarded LLC. And that means that it's not going to have any tax implications for you.
Okay. This is the first time I've ever heard of a disregarded LLC. I have to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's just a default LLC.
Okay.
And I think it was a little bit later that they allowed you to have it elect to have it taxed as a C Corp or S Corp.
Okay.
Which is great. It's so good for small companies. The only reason, again, not a lawyer, the only reason you'd want to have a corporation is if you want to go public and you want to split up more than 1,000 shares. My understanding is that you can, like with an S Corp, you can split up into 1,000 shares. The C Corp, you can have unlimited shares.
Okay.
And there's no shares for LLC. So
Okay.
The only reason to get a corporation is if you want to split your company into shares and sell them off. Generally, we don't want to do that in
Right.
real estate.
Yeah.
Usually. So just stick with it. Especially if you're doing this by yourself, just start with LLC disregarded. By the time you need anything other than a disregarded LLC,
You're going to have a bunch of attorneys
you already
advising you
have
anyway.
a lawyer. You already
Yep.
have a seat.
You're already going to have a lot of people advising you on your team.
Right, exactly.
You know. So the follow-up question was does an LLC mean money on taxes, which we already just talked about that, right?
Yeah.
Saying is there really an LLC tax break, right?
No, there's nothing.
Right.
It doesn't change your taxes at all.
Right. Okay. All right. That's good. Let's continue. What's the difference between a single member LLC and a multi-member LLC? And which one makes sense if I own it with a spouse or if I go in with another investor? So that came from, I think, Tyler and Joey, where they said, what do we do if we go in? Because they went in partners on a deal already. And I think, I don't know what happened. I mean, everything's fine with it, but I think, I don't remember exactly all the details. But so they're asking, how do you do a multi-member LLC, meaning two people? And I guess their part, if they go in as partners, how would you handle that?
Yeah, good question. And it's very simple. Just at the end of your articles, when you create the LLC, it'll just say, how much interest does each person have? Could be 50-50, could be 199, whatever you want it to be. And then, so at the very bottom, it'll say, this is the distribution of membership, and be like, this member 50%, this member 50%, or whatever. So the advantage of doing that, now I'm going to say a couple of things that are completely different.
Okay.
One, the advantage of doing that is, let's just say that you want to, you can instead of putting each person on the deed, you could instead just say it's owned by 123 Main Street LLC, and then the part that's not public, which is your articles, indicate that it's owned 50-50. So that part can be anonymous, so they don't know exactly who owns it.
Okay.
So that would be kind of the main advantage of that. You could do all the splitting up in your actual documents, in your personal documents, and then you just show 123 Main Street LLC is what gets the property. So that would be the main advantage of doing it that way. The other thing I'll say, and this is just personal advice, I suspect you'll agree with me, but there's a lot of debate about whether or not you should have partners. I lean away from getting partners. I'd prefer not to have a partner. And one of my favorite quotes was, there was a guy that did, he wrote a book on industrial real estate, which is one of the best real estate books I've read. And he said, if you don't have quite enough money to buy the property yourself, just save up more money and get it yourself. Don't get a partner.
Well,
I'm more in that camp.
I can tell you this. I did a short not too long ago. My son likes to come in and ask questions, and we post them on Instagram and Facebook, just a couple of shorts. And that was one of the questions, was a partner. And I am 1,000% against it. Absolutely no, and no. I've seen friendships ruined over it. I've seen family ruined over it. I've seen so many things get ruined over partners. It's just the wrong thing. And my answer is, hey, if somebody wants to partner with you, say no, thank you. But if you want to learn, you can tag along with me. I'll teach you. I'll help you, whatever. But no, and no for partners whatsoever.
Yeah.
So,
and in the medical and psychology field, they call that a dual relationship, and you just want to avoid it.
yes.
So it's like you don't want someone to be both your client and also your friend, generally speaking.
Absolutely.
Because it just multiplies how many problems there could have, and
Yep.
one ruins the other. And just in general, it's better just to have like one relationship per person.
Totally agree.
That's a personal.
Yeah, I wouldn't do it. Now, I will say that I did have a partner. We built 2 houses. Well, I had a partner with 3 houses that I built. 2 houses was the same friend of mine I played ice hockey with. We were friends for a long time. And they went smooth. We had no problems. I let him be the general on those 2. He was a contractor anyway. He was a carpenter, good friend. So those 2 houses went very smooth. The last one went relatively smooth up until the end. So I don't want to say I had a bad experience. I had good experiences with them, but I've seen too many partners get ruined. I really have. And I don't think I would ever partner up again. Maybe I would. I don't know, but I just
it's not a hard rule, but a couple other things. One, I think that new people talk about partners because they're afraid, and it's for emotional reasons.
Yes.
That's not a good enough reason.
No,
that's a good enough reason to do that. So if you want to work with people like a contractor, that's fine, of course.
Right.
But partner, where I don't do equity, and I don't give a partner like part of the business or part of the property. I keep them contractors. I just you can have money and help me with stuff, but the property itself or the deal itself is 100% mine.
Yeah.
I prefer to do it.
It has to be strictly business. Friends are friends and business is business. You have to separate those 2. You really do. Okay, back to the LLCs. I got a couple good ones coming up. Do I need a separate bank account for my real estate LLC? And how important is it that I keep the LLC's income, expenses, deposits, records separate from my personal finances?
Okay, I'm going to give you the general answer, and then I'm going to tell you like a sort of workaround, a legal workaround. So the basic answer is yes, you're supposed to have a bank account for each, and they're free to open. So just go ahead and open them. Open one for each. You don't have to do anything with it. But if the IRS asks you about the bank account, you can say, okay, here it is. Here's the bank account. Now, here's what I do. I mentioned this briefly last time, but this has saved me so much time and struggle.
Okay.
You can have a company that is directly owned by you.
Yep.
It doesn't have to be anonymous, and it could be just a regular disregarded LLC, and that's your management company.
Yep.
And what you do is you have an agreement that for every single one of those LLCs that has a property between your management company, let's Vinny's Management Company LLC, and then Main Street, 123 Main Street LLC, 124 Main Street LLC, and so on. And each one of those has an agreement, the exact same agreement, and just digitally sign it, keep it there. And then that management agreement says that your management company is allowed to receive payments, pay bills, and basically do anything. It has full financial control over each of those LLCs. That way, anytime any of the funds come in, they always go into that management company. One account. All the bills get paid for that management company. Right. So you never have to worry about, this company being short and this company having too much money or whatever. So it just makes it so much easier and better. So disregarded LLC, management company, LLC, and then just have that agreement in place. Will they ever ask for it? Probably not, but you're supposed to have a management agreement.
Right.
And it's easy to do. And then just have all your bills and all your income go through that management company. It will make your life so much easier, and it's totally legal.
Right. Very good. Okay. What does piercing the corporate veil mean?
That means if you don't treat your LLC correctly, and again, LLC rules are pretty, okay, let me see. So if you don't follow the rules, a judge can say, okay, well, you're treating that like your personal bank account, so I'm going to ignore the fact that you have an LLC. Right. You're not treating it like an LLC, so I'm not going to treat it like an LLC either. So, so think of it as like 3 levels. There's LLC, which has very few, it doesn't have, they're not hard to follow. Okay. Have a bank account. If you have a management company, have a management agreement. You don't even have to do annual meetings. There's very little requirements that you have for an LLC. So just follow those simple rules and it shouldn't be a problem. Don't treat, the main one I think is don't treat the LLC bank account like your personal bank account. Don't, go to the movies and spend your LLC's money. Right. Take a distribution. If you can, I don't spend my LLC's money at all. I'll take a distribution and then pay it. Right. And even, so I'm not going to go any more detail than that. Basically, just keep the money separate.
Keep
The
it separate.
commingling is the main
Don't
thing.
commingle.
Right. Don't commingle. If you don't do that, you'll be fine.
Yep.
And not to go into too much detail, but corporations, there's more rules, like you have to have annual meetings, stuff like that. And then the highest one would be like a charity, which we could talk about that another time. I think every serious real estate investor should consider having a charity. There's other advantages you can't get any other way, but they have very strict rules. So you have to follow those rules to the letter. And there's a bunch of rules that are not there. We could talk about that another day.
Yep.
But bottom line, disregarded LLC has very few rules. You can look them up. There's like 2-3 rules. Follow the rules. They're easy. And then the judge will probably not. You can never know what a judge is going to do 100%, but the judge is not supposed to pierce the veil.
Right. Okay. Very good. So,
but that other lawyer will try to convince the judge that you are doing things wrong. So just try to know what the rules are and try to stay on the up and up, and you should be fine.
Right. It's just so simple. It's not difficult, right? Okay. What happens to my LLC or my LLC if I pass away?
That's a good question, and that will depend on whether it is in a trust.
Or if you have a will, right?
Well, it'll still go through probate.
Okay.
So let's talk about that for a second. So think in terms of no will at all, or nothing, no will, no trust, nothing.
Yep, that goes to probate.
Will but no trust.
Yep.
And then think in terms of trust. Those are basically the 3 categories. If everything's in a trust, which is normally called a living trust, but that's not a technical term. It's really just a revocable grantor trust that they call a living trust, just so that regular people can know what they're talking about.
Right.
But if everything is in a trust, like for example, I don't have a living trust yet, but I'm going to get one. My dad has one, and he's got his LLC inside the trust, and his property he has one investment property that's inside that LLC. Mm-hmm. So, when he passes, it'll just follow the rules of the trust. Yep. No problem, no probate. It happens automatically, super easy. If you have a will, it still goes to probate, which means the judge has the final decision, but a judge will generally follow the will.
Yep.
Like that's the instructions for the judge on what to decide. And 9 times out of 10, unless there's a really good reason not to, he will follow the will. Now, if you don't have a will or a trust, then it still goes to probate, but now the judge has a difficult decision. Yep. He's got to listen to all the kids, and like it's you never know what's going to happen.
No, you never know.
You should at least have a will, but really, a living trust guarantees that your rules are going to be followed.
Yep. And if you have a lot of money, your people are going to pop all out of the woodworks.
Right. Exactly. That's a great point. We were best. Yeah.
He promised me this. He promised me this.
Yeah. No. Old Vinny said he was going to give me all his properties. Then a judge has to evaluate that.
Yeah.
If you don't have a trust or a will.
All right. One of the ones that I asked before, can a trust own an LLC? And a follow on with that. All right, and let me just go on with it. So it's kind of like a 2-part question. And followings, if so, using an LLC and a trust together better than using either one alone?
Okay, that is a complex question. So let me see if I can break that down. So there's 2 reasons only to use a trust. One is for anonymity, and the other one is for ease of transfer, like we are just talking about with the living trust.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So you can have an LLC, and the member of the LLC is a trust. So that means that, whatever the LLC gets goes into the trust.
Okay.
Or you can have a trust and the beneficiary is an LLC. Now, both of those are going to provide anonymity and transferability. So you have advantages for both.
Okay.
Let's see. Could you repeat the question real quick? So, that was a fairly complex question.
It was, can my trust own an LLC? And using an LLC and a trust together, is it better than using either one or either than alone?
Okay, so let me say that. Let me say 2 things about this. So, one, if you want the anonymity, you don't need a trust. You can get a Wyoming LLC and have the Wyoming LLC be the sole member of your LLC that has the property in it, and then you've got both anonymity and protection. Okay. Now, the transferability is not necessarily there. So you could, if you wanted to, and I don't do this.
Okay.
It's a very complex question. So if you just wanted like advice on what to do, I don't give advice. But if you did want advice, one of the things that I could say is have the Wyoming LLC have it be the member of the LLC that holds the property, and then have the Wyoming LLC, the member of the Wyoming LLC, the thing that's above the Wyoming LLC or before it, is your trust rather than you yourself. So for me, I haven't gotten to that point yet. I haven't done the living trust stuff yet. I'm going to.
Right.
But right now, I'm the sole member of my Wyoming LLC. But you could definitely make your living trust the sole member of your Wyoming LLC. Then you've got the transferability and you've got the anonymity.
Okay.
So,
Is doing that better than just using one or either one alone? Is there an advantage of that?
Yes, yeah, for sure. Think of it as there's three separate advantages. There's liability protection.
Okay. Which is your LLC.
Yeah, with your LLC. And then there's anonymity, which could be your trust or it could be your Wyoming LLC that's on top of everything.
Right.
Or, like the origination of everything. Yep. And then the other one is transferability. So an LLC doesn't have that. There's no way to do that for an LLC. The only way is through a trust.
Yep.
So for that, the easiest way, especially if you have a lot of assets, is just have a living trust and have the living trust be the sole member of the Wyoming LLC in this case. So let's say I have, just to simplify, I have one Wyoming LLC and 100 LLCs that it is the member of. Instead of taking each of those 100 LLCs and doing a transfer of interest to your trust, you could just go up to the Wyoming LLC and have the Wyoming LLC have their main member be your living trust. That way you don't have to do anything individually with all those 100 properties.
Right. Okay.
So
would you
I would say there's many ways to do it, but probably the simplest, and what I'm going to do is Wyoming LLC, which owns all the property LLCs, and then I'm just going to later on make my living trust be the sole member of the Wyoming,
right? And the Wyoming one owns
automatically keep all the other ones,
and the Wyoming one owns all the other 100 or so
exactly.
other ones, right?
Yeah.
Right. Well, this one we already know. This was, will my LLC provide privacy when I'm buying real estate? Can someone determine who owns or controls my LLC through public records?
If it's not every state, well, most states, not Wyoming, and I think Nevada and Delaware, the other ones, most states require that they list a member or at least a manager. So if the thing that you own directly is the state LLC, then yeah, they'll see you on the website.
Right.
But that's why I'm saying if you have a Wyoming LLC, you're not going to be on the website. They don't require it. And then when they look at I'm just going to say Florida, they look at your Florida LLC, they're like, oh, it's owned by Wyoming LLC. Well, let's look that one up. Oh, that one doesn't list a member or manager, so I don't know. It's a dead end.
Right. What's just one of the next questions was, where should I form my LLC? Right? Is it better Delaware, obviously Wyoming, or Nevada? And does forming an LLC out of state actually help the real estate in the state that I'm located in?
So
we've been just really kind of talking about it, so we're kind of just going over that again.
The property holding LLC should always be in the state that the property is located. So if I have a Virginia property, it needs to be in a Virginia LLC.
Right.
So the question is, who owns that Virginia LLC?
Right.
And that could be like Wyoming, for example. Now, in general, I think Wyoming is considered the best right now for what we're talking about.
Right.
Nevada used to be the best like 15 years ago, but Wyoming stepped up their anonymity game.
Yep.
It's largely considered the best. Delaware, generally that's for a Delaware statutory trust. And my understanding is that if you're doing a fund or a syndication, that there are advantages going in Delaware. I don't do those, but that's my understanding where the advantage of Delaware is. So if you're getting a bunch of investors, like 15, 20 investors to buy an apartment building with you, you're probably going to make a Delaware statutory trust.
Right. But for pure anonymity, Wyoming is the better way. It used to be Nevada, but Wyoming
is the cheapest. It's the best. It limits a creditor to charging orders only.
Yep.
And there's a lot of advantages, but just to give you a little your audience another tidbit. So charging order protection, which Wyoming LLCs have, means that even if you are sued, they can't take what's in there. They can just kind of put a lien on your LLC. I don't know if that's the exact right term, but basically if you sell anything.
That's right. They can put a lien on it.
Then they can take it. But you don't have to do that. You can just leave it in there and keep making money from it. And there's lots of ways to get money out of it without giving it to your creditor. It's really just if you take a distribution. That's actually another whole conversation I'm realizing. But so you wouldn't take distributions from there, but there's other ways to get money out that are not distributions, and the creditor can't do anything about that.
Okay.
That is another whole complex and very interesting topic. Bottom line is, if a creditor can take something from an LLC, there's basically 4 ways to get money out of an LLC, and the only one that creditor prevents is a direct distribution. The other 3 ways you can still get money out, and the creditor can't do anything about it.
What are the other 3 ways, real quick?
What was that?
What are the other 3 ways? Just say, you can say it real quick.
You can pay your bills.
Pay your bills.
You're still allowed to pay your bills, so expenses.
Okay.
You can pay your, let's see, I don't know about, you can pay your salary for sure. I don't know if that counts as bills or not. I don't remember if these are the exact 3, but one, you can also get loans. You can take a loan from yourself, and a creditor can't do anything about that.
Okay.
I don't know if there's another one or not, but for sure, those ones you can do, and a creditor can't touch it.
Okay.
But if you just straight up take money out of it, a creditor can get that.
Okay.
So use one of the other ways. Pay your bills, pay your salaries. You can pay yourself a salary. That's not taking a distribution. That's different.
Right.
So they can't prevent you from taking a salary. And then, of course, if you just need more money from there, you can take a loan from it. And there's rules about that too, but you can get money out of there if you need.
Right. So the best thing is to have a decent accountant that'll help you structure this the right way to, that'll say, hey, take it as a loan, right? Take it as this, take it as a salary, whatever. Okay.
Yeah, and know the stuff yourself, because I'm telling you, no matter how knowledgeable your CPA is, or no matter how knowledgeable your lawyer is, they're going to miss things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, I've got one of the biggest, best real estate specific lawyers in the country, and they still miss some stuff sometimes. Like, I'll have to be like, oh, well, can I do this? Oh yeah, you can do that.
Right.
So nothing will replace you personally knowing the knowledge. The advantage of being an investor is you don't have to do anything. You can do everything. You could swing the hammer, whatever you want to do. You don't have to do anything. You could hire people to do stuff, but you have to know everything.
Yep.
If you hire someone to be a contractor, you better know contractor stuff.
Or you're just going to, because if not, you are going to get taken advantage of in every way, shape, or form.
Yep.
Right.
That includes,
One of the first, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there. One of the first things I try to teach people is like just a simple thing, like know your market. Like, if you don't even know the market that you're investing in, like, oh my God, like, don't even try investing.
No law, no taxes,
no
real estate, no contracting, all that stuff. You don't have to do anything.
Right.
And I don't really do anything, but I try to know everything.
Yeah.
And then that's why you can be successful that way.
That's why all these people who go online and pay a guru like, $10,000, $20,000 and think they're going to become a rich overnight real estate investor, it's just mind boggling to me. I don't get where their thinking is. Like, are you serious?
It's just on social media.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, I have this Lamborghini after doing blah, blah, blah. I'm only 22 years old and I have a Lamborghini.
It's
just that stuff.
Yeah, it's insane.
Real estate is the best get rich slow process.
It really is. Oh my God. All right. Next question. What is it going to cost me to create and maintain my LLC for my rental property? And what should I expect as far as, do I have to pay a formation fee? Do I got to pay annual fees? Do I have to pay registered agents, accounting, tax prep, what legal expenses? What are the basic expenses from start to finish to expect for an LLC for each property, for each one?
Yeah, and it's not that complex. So let's split it into 2 things: the formation and then the regular annual cost.
And last question, can you write these expenses off on your returns?
You do. They're startup expenses. So remember that.
Yeah.
You have every business, including each property that you buy in its own LLC, has 5,000. Now, again, not a CPA, but look this stuff up. But you have startup expenses. And that's what that would be.
Is that limited? Isn't that limited to about 10 grand?
Yeah, it's limited to $5,000. But that's basically.
I thought it was 10,000.
My CPA says 5,000. I'm not a CPA. I only know what she tells me. I have $5,000.
I could have swore it was 10,000 for startup.
Okay.
But listen, I'm not a CPA. I for some reason I thought it was 10 grand for startup. But
I think it's 5, but we'll look it up.
Oh yeah, that'll be a good question. Is it 5 or 10 for startup?
Yeah. So
okay. So go ahead. So let's get into the cost for and remember, for each property that you have, so if you got 5 properties, you want 5 independent LLCs. And then Obviously, if you want to have your Wyoming LLC own those 5, that's fine. So what is the cost for each one to form it, to maintain it, and
That's
and
it. Form
anything
and
else?
maintain. Those are the only two.
Okay.
So yeah, okay. So forming, it can go anywhere from free to, I'd say like a big law firm might charge like $600.
Okay.
So between free and $600, you could do it for like 50. There's things online where you can do it for like $50 or whatever. You can do it yourself for free. You can get like a local law office to do like for like $450, or you could pay like a big real estate specialist to do $600. Also, one other thing I want you to just be aware. My law firm, and I don't know if any other ones do this, but my law firm have a one-time $9,000 fee, and then I get unlimited LLCs for life.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, bargain.
Yeah,
So,
for you, that's
I
a steal.
save so much money doing that. So yeah. So
why do you
those
do
are-
that? Well, I guess most people don't think they're not going to do many LLCs. So
Yeah, I
what
mean,
they may lose on you, they'll gain on the other 200 people that they're signing up for.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like, I mean, like real estate is not something you should dabble in. You shouldn't get like your goal shouldn't be to get like 1 or 2. Because the first couple are going to be the hardest.
Right.
You're going to make the most mistakes. And if you only get 2, you're not going to have a great career in real estate. So you need to plan on getting like 10, 20, 30,
Totally
40,
agree with
50,
that.
100 eventually.
Yeah.
Like every single time it gets easier and more profitable and you make fewer mistakes. So, there's no point in just doing like 1 to 5 houses. Plan on being in there as a career.
Yeah.
Not like as a hobby that you dabble in.
I couldn't agree more with that. I mean, when I jumped in with both feet. So
Yeah. So yeah.
I went to the deep end.
Yeah.
All right. So go ahead. So what? All right. So a couple $100, but let me ask you this though. Do you not have to get a fictitious name for each one of those?
No,
So-
you never have to
No?
get fictitious. All right. So now when you say fictitious name, are you talking about the real name, or are you talking about the doing business as name?
I'm talking. So if I was going to get, I'm talking about the LLC name. Is that not a business name?
That's in that cost that I'm talking about. I think that maybe states might have like a $50 fee. So let's just say not free. Let's say it might start at like $50 or something like that.
Yeah, it's like $50 or $75 for the fictitious
Yeah,
name.
depending on the state. So
Right.
you could do it yourself for like $50 or $75, or you could have a law firm do it for you for like $400, $500, $600. But the name is included in that.
Okay. So basically you have to register the name at the Department of State, right? In Pennsylvania, it's like $75. So you get the name of it, right? So nobody else can use the same name.
Yeah, I see what you're asking. So not zero. There might be some states that don't charge for that, but I don't know. Let's just say $50 to $600.
Pennsylvania used to be, I'm not 100% sure. I 30 some odd years ago, I'm pretty sure fictitious names were free. And now I think it's either $50 or $75 in Pennsylvania.
A small amount.
Yeah, it's under $100. It's
for sure.
that's just to get the name.
They
right?
want you to be in business. The
Oh,
government wants you to be in business.
Oh, yeah.
Because they know you're going to help them do their job
Yes.
of taking care of people.
Yes.
Yeah. So they want to make it as cheap as possible. It's really just a fee so they can pay their worker to like file it for you. They're
Right.
not gouging you on this fee.
And how about annual? Is there an annual fee for?
Yeah, there's annual fees. So there's 2 annual fees. There's a registered agent fee.
Okay.
Okay. Now you can be your own registered agent. That
Some
does-
states you don't need that. Pennsylvania, you don't need a registered
Oh,
agent.
interesting. Okay.
You could be your own.
Okay. Well, okay. Yeah. What I'm saying, right? You could be your own registered agent is what I'm saying. So you don't have to pay that if you're your own, but it's definitely worth it in my opinion, because that does like hurt your anonymity. Just because you're the registered agent doesn't necessarily mean that you own the property.
Yeah.
But you just want to keep your name off of it as much as possible. Manager doesn't mean that you own the property. Registered agent doesn't mean you own the property. But if there's a property and the only 2 names on there are yours, and you're both the registered agent and the manager,
Right.
like they could probably
Of
put
course.
2 and 2 together. So I would just say if you use a law firm. So here, let's say for example, you got a local law firm. They charge you like $300 to make the LLC, and then they'll charge you another, let's say $150 a year to be your RA, which also means they receive not all your mail, but like any like emergency mail the government sends you might go to your like really important mail might go to your RA first. So they do. There is a guaranteed place where the government can send mail, which they do require, and then there's also the the state fee. There's an annual fee for maintaining your LLC.
Mhm.
That's usually like $100 or something.
Yeah, it's not much.
So,
And
yeah.
you could actually you could go as low as, I think Delaware has registered agents like $35 a year, or to get one.
Yeah.
They're not expensive at all.
Yeah.
They're not
So
expensive.
let's just say, like a few $100 to get it started and like an average of $200 every month.
Right. And you have to just add that as part of your costs, like, your regular operating costs.
It's nothing compared to, I mean, if you're not making that every month, you should probably reevaluate the property you're buying.
Yeah,
if you're not profiting that every month.
Right. I totally agree. Totally agree. Right. Well, a lot of people, they don't even know how to run cash flow analysis. It's mind boggling.
You know what I would love to do? I just thought of this. We got so many ideas. I've got a very detailed spreadsheet that I made from scratch.
Okay.
And it tells the story of the property, including all the numbers.
Really?
I
love to see that.
I think your viewers would love.
I'd love to see that. I would like to see that.
Yeah. I'm just going to say, it's the best one that I've ever seen.
Okay.
Because whenever I see one that looks better than mine, I figure out what's better and I steal it.
Of course.
And I incorporate it into mine.
Well, you don't steal it. It's research. It's research.
Yep, exactly. Yeah,
research.
I tell my wife, I don't know if you're familiar with the movie The Highlander, but basically The Highlander was about like these immortals that like steal the powers of other immortals. And that's what I do. I Highland other spreadsheets and turn it into one super spreadsheet.
Right. So, why reinvent the wheel?
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So I'd be happy to like run through mine if you have one.
I would love to see that. Let's put that on the list. So what we have right now for our follow-on ones are, we're going to talk about the banks willing to call the notes, right?
Yeah.
We're going to talk about charities, and then we're going to talk about how do you want to call that? A checklist? What do you call that?
Property research is what I call it.
Okay, property research checklist. Property
And
research. Okay.
And then we've got like 4 or 5 other ones I've got written down somewhere.
Perfect.
Those are the 2 new ones for today.
Okay.
I think they're all going to be really fun.
Yeah. Okay. We're almost down to the end for LLCs.
Okay.
What records and documentations does my LLC need to maintain? What do I need like? What kind of records do I have to maintain, if any?
So records, honestly, like I said, LLCs specifically are like the most relaxed ones.
Okay.
There's really not much you have to do. You don't have to do an annual meeting, though. It's a good idea to do one just to write down like what you're doing every year. But the IRS doesn't require an annual meeting. So let me just look in my files real quick. There's just a few documents that you need to keep on file permanently, but they're not ones that you need to do in a recurring way. Give me half a second to see. Like,
I think that would be more like an operating agreement that you would have to keep.
Operating agreement. So the easy way to think about it is the AO and the OA.
Okay.
The AO is the Articles of Organization.
Yep.
And then the OA is the operating agreement.
Yep.
So those 2 for sure. Basically, all the things that you get. I keep my EIN letter because.
Yep.
And by the way, I'm keeping these because the lender's sometimes going to ask for
it. And so is the bank.
And bank lender, is going to ask for it.
Yeah, when you open up your bank account, the first thing they're going to ask for is your EIN. Now, you can open up under your Social Security, but you're better off having an EIN number.
Right. Have the EIN. Just keep the letter. The IRS is going to send it to you.
It's free. Right.
They want you to pay your taxes.
Right.
So they will give you free EIN.
An EIN number is free. So for every LLC,
keep the EIN, keep your OA, and keep your AO.
Yep.
I think that's about it for actual just LLCs.
Yep. All right. This was a good one. I should have asked this earlier. Is there any time that I should not use an LLC for an investment property?
I saw that question, and I personally can't think of any reason to not do that because it's literally just protection. It can be, could be transfer. It could be deeded if you want to. You could put it in a trust and transfer it. Like, I cannot think of any reason that I would ever. The only thing, at least in the end, you might have to buy it if you're using like a conventional.
Well, that was the only thing I was going to say, is the financing part of it.
Yeah.
So
they might require it, but then you just put it right in an LLC. So no, I would never keep it in my personal.
Right. So that was the only reason why it's the financing part. Because some people in the beginning that do house hacking, and house hacking is you buy a house, you live in it for a year, then you're starting out as a young kid, then you go you rent it out for a year because you can't lie.
Yeah, that's how I started in 2003.
Okay, you bought one, and then
I still have that house too. It's great.
Yeah, listen, if 08 didn't happen, I'd still have all my properties.
we'll have to talk about that one day because it was like I was like clawing also, but I was able to hang on to what I had. And
I was literally ground. I was ground zero.
You had way more than I did at the time, but we should definitely share our
Yeah,
experience.
I can share that. That was a depressing. That was a very depressing.
I'd love to hear it.
You know, that was brutal. I mean, I just remember. Oh,
It was brutal. Yeah, it was brutal for me too. And I had my bet. Like I never. Just we'll talk about this later. But I never followed the news. Like one of my personal things back then, and really to this day is. But I never looked at the news. I didn't have a TV in my house.
Right.
I didn't read newspapers. I didn't read anything.
Better off.
Like I was anti-news. So I didn't know. I literally did not know the recession was happening. I was like, wow, this is crazy because my business, my psychology business was like, man, there's fewer and fewer people coming in.
Yeah.
And it started being like, and then I was like, I still got to pay for this house. Fortunately, I was house hacking, at least for the first few years. So I was able to do that. But yeah, I mean, it was rough. I did hang on, but that was, we should share our perspectives from like the first person, like what was going on.
We could definitely do that. 08 mess. I'm going to put that down as the 08 mess.
Yeah.
That was a mess. And I'll just say this: at that time, I literally almost died. At that point, I had an aortic aneurysm where emergency surgery saved my life. So I got cut wide open, and I remember just laying in the bed watching the stock market crash. I remember getting phone calls from my tenants saying, "Hey, I'm getting because I was a corporate rental, so we rented houses to people from all over the world: France, England, Germany, Netherlands, Denmark." And, they're on 3, 4, 5-year leases and they're all calling, I'm getting sent back home. Sorry. Sorry. I got a $2 million house. Like, sorry, doesn't pay the bills,
I know. And I've got a couple stories, but once again, I am sure that your stories are going to be the star of the show.
Oh, I got stories. Believe me.
I want to hear it.
Oh my God.
But anyway, we'll
definitely get into that. Okay. We talked about this, but we'll wrap it up with this. This was the last question is, what does the ideal structure look like if I own several investment properties and want liability separation and estate planning for my children? I know we talked about it, but let's go over it one more time.
Yeah, I would just say, again, not a lawyer, but what I would personally do is I would have, I'll just start from the top. I do at the top. Some people do it at the bottom, but anyway, there's you, and then you're the beneficiary, or you're at least the trustee and grantor of your living trust, and maybe your kids are the beneficiary, or whoever you want to leave it to. So you have the trust, and then inside that trust or owned by that trust is your Wyoming LLC, and then so the trust is the sole member of the Wyoming LLC, and then the Wyoming LLC is the sole member of all of your individual LLCs. So one property per LLC, and then the owner of each one is your Wyoming LLC. And then you're good to go in almost every state.
Right.
Florida's a little different, but every other state, you're good to go with that. So you, trust, Wyoming, and then all your disregarded LLCs. Your own disregarded LLCs.
Perfect. Yep. So, and remember, each property is owned by its own independent LLC. Awesome. Okay. Well, that wraps it up for the questions for the LLCs. So I say we've been at it for a little while. So why don't we wrap it up there for today? Our next one. We'll get in. It'll be much shorter, so we can do kind of like a 2-part thing. We'll start out with. We'll finish up our questions with trust because I have some trust questions that my students also asked. Some good questions in here. Some not so good, but mostly all good questions that we have in here. But some, are a little bit redundant. Just want some clarity. So we can get into that. And then we can also talk about any of the other things you want to talk about, we can talk about willing to call notes. We could talk about charities. We could talk about your property checklist, right? Or we could talk about the 08 mess, or you've got some other ones that we can talk about. But we could talk about that offline. But I'd love to like to finish up with our trust on the next one, start with that, and then we can wrap up with something. But that was a good session there. We got, I learned a lot myself there, so which is good.
Great.
And I think my students and everybody else watching will like that too. So I appreciate you coming back and explaining that, and I look forward to the next one, which is going to be trust. And then we'll get into some other good juicy stuff. like our '08 mess and some other good stuff. So, but I appreciate it, Doc. Thanks for coming back on.
Sounds good.
Right.
Thank you
I'm
very
looking
much.
forward to doing the trust. Maybe we can do another one this week if you're
Oh
not
yeah,
too
no,
busy.
I'm good for this week.
Okay. Then we'll definitely set it up for this week. So
That's one of the advantages of being a real estate investor.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm gonna do it Thursday, daytime, that's fine.
I,
Whatever works for you.
I just said that I was out with my son golfing the other day. And it's the first time that we played. We were in South Carolina last year, so I did play. It's the first time I played in a long time. I got a bad back, and it's hard for me to get out. I can't play 18. I get about 10, 11 holes in, and that's about it. My knee gets out, my back gives out. I just can't do it. But it was nice to get out with my son. And, he works for FedEx, and he makes some nice money. He pays all his own bills, and he's wanting to get into the real estate game. He wants to buy a duplex so that, so it was for his first house. He's 21 years old, right? Or 22.
You just said his birthday, right? Happy
That's,
birthday.
that's my youngest one. Yeah, that was yesterday. He turned 21. So
What's his name?
that one's Brendan. So
Brendan. Happy birthday, Brendan.
yes, thank you. And so he'll be watching. And Riley was the one I played golf with. He's the one who works at FedEx. And then my other son, he's the one that graduated University at Tampa. He's the one that comes in and we do some shorts and we post them on Instagram every now and then. So I was out with Riley, who's, wants to buy his first duplex and rent it out and wants to buy more and stuff like that. But I said to him, Riley, you know what else would be good if you got into the mortgage business like I did? And I said, you don't have to love it. I said, but I just want to show you something. I said, you see how you're out here with me playing golf, right? And we picked this day because you don't have to work tomorrow. I said, just imagine if you don't have to go to work every day, right? Every day is, hey, if I own enough, and you're not going to own a lot of real estate right now, but if you own one or two properties, but you're doing the mortgage business on the side, I said, look, I just handed your mother like 3 people that needed loans, right? And, the average loan now, when I first got into the game, a jumbo loan was $200,000, right? That was jumbo. 202, 250 was a jumbo loan. I literally just handed my wife 3 people that needed to get loans. And the average sales price or the average loan is like $375,000. Wow. Now in the mortgage business, we average two points on a deal. That's what we usually make, about anywhere from 1.5% to 2%. So let's just call 2% is the average what a mortgage broker makes on a deal. And I said, right, look, so you got a $350,000 deal loan, right? $350,000. Okay. And if you're making 2%, I don't even know why you need a calculator. It's $7,000. And I said, you got 3 of them. So it's $21,000 just on 3 loans. I said, how long does it take you to make $21,000 at FedEx? Right? There's 3. And I said, by the way, the only time I talk to these clients, or Amy, or my wife, Mommy, talks to the clients is after 5 o'clock at nighttime because they're at work during the day and they can't talk. So now I said, do you think you could take a phone call while you're out here playing golf? I said, I did it all the time. I said, so now just think of like the life you can have owning real estate and doing mortgages on the side. Because I want him to do both. I don't want him just to be a real estate investor because he can get his own loans. I'd rather like get his real estate license and a mortgage broker's license because then he can get paid buying the houses. He could do his own loans. You know what I mean? I want him to be an all-in-one shop.
And then, hey, and just to interrupt you real quick,
yeah,
get your general contractor's license too. It's not hard.
Yes.
Then you could like save money on contract. You could do your own subcontractors too.
Absolutely.
Pull
Absolutely.
your own permits.
Right.
Yeah.
I wound up building houses from it, right? From owning real estate, I wound up building multi-million-dollar homes. It was one of the funnest, best things I ever did. So I think I talked him into that. I know he's very interested in real estate, but it's just real estate gives you the freedom to do whatever you want to do. Like you don't have to go to FedEx every day. You can, like you want to play golf every day, you can. Real estate gives you that ability to go play golf every day. I did that, Riley, for years. I belonged to 2 country clubs, the one in Florida and the one here, and that's what real estate can do for you. But you got to do it the right way. You can't go to these fly-by-night social media gurus that are going to teach you, think you're going to go do subject to financing and then go own the world. It just doesn't happen. Right, Chris? You agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I have a few subject twos, and it's not, it's just a tool in the tool belt.
It's one tool in the toolbox, right? But here's the thing. This is one thing I'd like to get into because this talks about getting the corner notes too. So we'll tee it up for the next time, right? So maybe we'll get into the subject to and that. Now, when you did subject to, just for the folks that are out there who are watching Pace Morbly and all the subject to gurus out there, Did you do it with no money down, or did you have to pay the equity person who, like when you took your subject to deal, right?
Mhm.
Was there equity in the
Very rare that
property? Was
yeah.
there equity in the property, or were they just dying to get out?
Yeah, we did have to pay them some money. There was equity in the property.
Okay.
But let me say something else. And we'll talk about this next time.
Yeah.
Like almost every time when the gurus online say, oh, it's zero, to get it for zero money down. What they're talking about is like, oh, well, you get a loan and then you also use your credit card and then you also borrow it on the side from this other person and don't count it as a gift and season it. And then you do this and you're putting all this money down. It's just money from different sources.
Right.
So it's like zero down. It's like you're putting all that. Why am I putting all this money down if it's zero down?
Right.
Almost every time when you actually hear what they're saying, you're putting a bunch of money down.
Right.
And yeah, to answer your question, we do put money down.
Right.
We usually give money to the seller. We usually give some money to the person that found the deal, whether it's a wholesaler
Yep.
or a broker or whatever.
Yep.
So yeah, there's definitely money down.
But remember this, just so for all the people out there, and I definitely want to get into this on the next podcast, right? So that, and because this will lead us into the note being called due. Okay, so this we'll start out with the trust, and then we're going to go right into this. You have the ability, if they call the note due, to go and either A, get a loan or pay the loan off. So let's just say they call the note due. You're a person that can go out there, refinance that property or pay that property off and not worry about the note being called due. Not a lot of people can. I literally had a person who pays more than $10,000. She doesn't have a penny to her name. And I said, what happens if they call the note due? She doesn't have good credit. I said, how are you going to pay the note off? Can't.
And that's going to be the key to our discussion. And I just kind of saw the matrix a little bit.
Yeah.
And I understand now exactly why you don't like that. Because when you think of that, and I think something different, and this will make sense. When you think about it, you're thinking about someone saying, oh yeah, don't worry if it, we'll just pay it and they're not going to call the note due, or they can't call the note due, or if they do, we'll just pay it off. And then when it doesn't go their way, they just leave.
Right.
And they leave the person with the problem. That's what you don't like, and I don't like that either.
I hate it.
When I think about it, I'm like, number one, I'm going to pay it. Even if problem happens with that, I've got other sources of funding. I'm not going to leave that person hanging.
Right.
And then number two, I can always get a refinance, even if it's slightly worse terms, I can still do it. And then worst case scenario, I can just pay it off.
Right.
I'm going to do one of those things in order. I'm not going to leave that person hanging.
Listen, I can't tell you how many people that I've talked to who do subject to. So what happens if they call the note due? Do you have the means to pay that off? They're like, no, just give the deed back. I'm like, no, that's being a scumbag. That is so wrong. What do you mean?
Hurting that other person who was already hurt.
Right. Now you're just
someone that's on the ground and they trusted you. That's your problem.
That's
I agree.
so bad. I'm like, that's not being a real estate investor. That's just taking advantage of people.
Scam artist. If you're planning on just cutting them loose if anything goes wrong.
Right.
You're basically telling them you're going to take care of them and telling them you're going to solve their problem. And then the first time there's a problem, you cut them loose. And
right.
They have to deal with the problem. It doesn't even cross my mind to be unethical like that.
Right.
I think that's why you don't like it and why I'm like, what's your problem? Because it doesn't even occur to me.
Oh, well, listen, we're going to hold the trust off for the next podcast. Because we're going to do a whole entire, listen, I want to get into this and we're going to save it for the next one, but we are going to get into subject to financing on our next podcast. And that's going to take up at least 2 hours of our time because I'm going to get into so many different details that I don't think, because I know what you're thinking. Hey, it's not a big deal, right? And to a guy like you, I agree. If you came to me and said, hey, yeah, I'm going to do subject to with that deal, right? I'd be like, yeah, I would have zero problem saying, yeah, that's fine. And the only reason why I think you would do it right now in today's environment is because A, you're going to get a better rate and you're going to get less of it. You're going to get a better term, right? It's the only reason why you're doing that right now is because you're getting a better rate. I mean, period, full stop. Other than that, you can go get a loan. So
less money down, down and a better rate.
Yeah, right. Well, sometimes it's less money down, not all the time.
Well, we would only do it if it was less money down,
right.
Probably.
Right.
We wouldn't put like $70,000.
Oh, no. But you hear a guy like Pace Morley say he does it all the time, which I'm like, that's total bullshit. I called him out one time where he says, I didn't put one penny out of my pocket So I blasted. I put in the notes, and then I did a video short out there, and it got a lot of views. And I said, really? Not one penny out of your pocket. Who paid the transfer tax? Did you buy this Did you buy this property without doing an appraisal or a home inspection?
And he probably either paid a wholesaler or he's paying his own employees as wholesalers.
Right.
I mean, there's definitely money being paid.
No doubt. But then he changed it after that. He didn't say he didn't. After that, he never said, I put no money out of my pocket anymore. He says, I don't put any of my own money out of my own pocket.
So he changed it after you called him out.
He changed it. He now doesn't say it's not my own. I don't put any of my own money out of my own pocket. And I'm going to get into how when I tell you, you're not going to find a lender in this country that will ever lend behind a subject to deal. You'll never get a private. They'll never lend on first off as a second. Rarely will you find a guy. Now they will do it. I did get a hard money loan as a second lien. Boy, did I pay for that one though, right? That's when I was building a house and I ran out of funds, and it was a $2 million house, and I went to the extremes, and I spent too much money, and my lender's like, no, we're not giving you any more money. And I had too much money put on this house, and I had money everywhere at the time. Like, man, I just need 50 grand to finish this house. So I just took a quick hard money loan. Boy, we'll get into that story. That hurt. That really hurt. Anyway, so you will not find a lender anywhere that will go in the second lien position. They're very hard to find. Very hard to find. I mean, you better have unbelievable equity, right, for them to go in the second lien position. And number two, they will never go behind a deal that's subject to, meaning that somebody else owns the loan and you got the deed. They'll never go behind that. It's like, that's insanity. That's like, come on, they're just dying to call the note to. So I'd love to get into all this with you.
There's so many other deals they could do. Like, why would they do this one-off one that has all these risk factors?
Well, I'm going to bring up lots of things that you don't think about with subject to, because I know right now you're thinking, oh, subject to is fine. I put a little bit of money down, right? If they call the note due, it's no big deal. That's you. But think about all the other people out there that are not you, right? And that's what we're going to get into.
Well, and like I said, it's a scalpel. You don't want to hand a scalpel to a 5-year-old.
That's a great way to look at it, right? And then that discussion is going to lead us into the very first thing that we talked about. Are the banks willing to call the note due? Because I know we're going to have a disagreement on that.
Right, and that's going to be fun.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. So we're going to actually get to it this week. There's going to be no doubt about it. We're going to put it in the schedule. We're going to get to it because this is going to be a good subject, and I think people are going to love it. So, all right, Doc, listen, I appreciate you coming on today. It's as fun as always, and I'm looking forward to our next conversation. So till then,
good. Me too.
All the best, my friend.
Thank you very much.
All right, Chris, take care.
Take care.
All right, I'll see you soon, buddy. All right.
See you soon.